Hello, 8th graders, how are you? First of all, let me just say I hope you're watching this video on Thursday. I am posting this on Wednesday because that's my day to post, but I need you to watch this on Thursday. Unless you're really ahead, you have gobs of extra time and you want to work ahead, okay, fine. But you need to make sure that you are finished with the other assignment I posted Wednesday, which is the crash course video. So make sure you've done the crash course video and the notes, you've turned those in. And then honestly, if this is Wednesday, and you don't have time for this right now, just do it tomorrow, okay? You'll have time. So with that said, let's go. You guys, so turn to page 262 in your textbook, please, which is the first page of chapter 13-3. So we're actually gonna be doing chapter 13-3 and 13-4 together at the same time because 13-4 is really short. So we're just gonna combine them. And as you can see in the objectives that I posted, they're all together, right, as one. I wanted to shoot this video today just kind of as an intro into these notes you're gonna be taking. So first of all, let me say this. You have been studying about American slavery, right? The tragedy of American slavery. And the first thing I want to make sure that you're walking away from that section from, among a lot of things, is that the economic success of the South, okay? The economic success of the South, as in their way of life, their way of making money, their jobs, their livelihood, okay, depended upon slavery. Cotton produced by slave labor was what drove many of the businesses there. And even for the Southerners who did not own slaves, they benefited from the slave labor as a whole because the entire economy was dependent upon slave labor. So I just wanted to say that, first of all, that's the takeaway that you should have had coming in here. Now, before you do this section, guys, it's really important for me for you to understand a theme that is going to happen throughout this next section, okay? So let's look at page 262, okay? The whole title of it is called The Slavery Issue Intensifies, right? We know that this is a hotly debated issue at this point, okay? But look at these headings, okay? The first thing you're going to take notes on is the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, okay? It's literally going to be an issue that says that if a slave escapes from the South and makes it to the North, then they're going to have to be returned to their masters. Look at the next heading, Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is a book written, it's a fictional book, historical fiction book, written to show the tragedy of slavery, the condition of slavery. The next section is called the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Guess what it has to do with? The slavery issue, whether Kansas and Nebraska are going to allow slaves in their state when they become a state, or whether they aren't going to allow slaves, okay? Turning to page 264, wow, the Republican Party. The Republican Party was founded solely based upon the fact that they were an anti-slavery group, okay? That's the whole reason they were formed. This next section, the Sumner Brooks episode, guys, you can see a picture here of these are two senators. This is a senator beating another senator over the head with his cane, okay? And guess why he's beating him over the head? Because issue of slavery. The guy was speaking out against slavery and this Southern senator didn't like it. He beat him over the head, okay? Look at the next section, the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott is a man who is suing the government over his freedom from slavery, okay? The outcome of that is really important, and you're gonna be reading about that. Look at this next section, John Brown. John Brown is a fiery abolitionist, and he's so against slavery that he ends up resorting to violence, and spoiler alert, he's going to be hung, and he's gonna be really kind of become like this martyr for the abolition movement, okay? Guys, the entire section is showing you and highlighting you big issues, okay, that had to do with what issue? Slavery, okay? Then in the election of 1860, of course, Lincoln is elected president. Lincoln is anti-slavery, although he does say publicly that he's not gonna mess with the slavery that's already there, but he's against allowing more slave states. He doesn't want slavery to continue or spread. He's against the spreading of slavery. But when he's elected in 1860, guess who's had enough? None other than South Carolina. South Carolina, because they fear that their right to slavery is going to be, lost because Lincoln is elected, they finally actually do vote to secede from the Union. Now remember, South Carolina was the state that was threatening to secede from the Union back over the issue of the tariffs, right? And states' rights, nullification. You do hopefully remember this. And then Andrew Jackson sent that warship, right, to say, no, you're not leaving the Union. And South Carolina said, who's with me? And the rest of the states were like, it was crickets, and nobody joined them. And so they did not secede. Well, it's 1860 and South Carolina is done. South Carolina's had enough. They officially break away from the Union. What this means is they're saying to the United States of America, we joined the United States freely, okay? We came in and we joined the United States. Now we have the right to now say, you know what? We didn't agree with you anymore. We want to leave the United States. We're gonna form our own government. And that's exactly what they did. They had a bunch of other states come with them. If you look at page 269, there's a map. All the blue states are going to secede along with South Carolina. You got Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and they all go together. And they form what is going to be known as the Confederate States of America. They write up their own constitution. They have their own president. They make their own laws. And guess what is a big highlight of their constitution? Is they write in their constitution that there is in there that they promise that there will be no law against slavery ever be able to be written. Okay, so why do I say all of this to you? Why am I saying this over and over, this theme? Because I really need you guys to get it through your head. Slavery is the biggest issue that's going on at this time. Slavery, okay, is causing violence. Slavery is causing bloodshed. Slavery is causing such a rift in the country that several states, and eventually it's going to be 11 states, I believe, secede officially from the Union, okay? And they form the Confederate States of America. Why? Because of the threat of slavery. Now, do the southern states are they also mad about other things? Yeah, they're mad about the tariffs that they feel are very unfair. They're mad that they're outnumbered in Congress and they have less population. They're mad that they can't compete with the northern industrial economy. They're mad about internal improvements. They're mad about being taxed for things they don't feel are fair. They're mad about a lot of things. But what are they, number one, mad about? Slavery, right? And the threat that slavery might be taken away and it is going to completely ruin their way of life, okay? I say this because the fact that South Carolina secedes from the Union, along with 11 other states eventually, is going to cause the Civil War. Because when Lincoln is elected, he says, I hope you guys don't secede, but if you do, I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to go to war to preserve the Union, to keep these states in the South a part of the United States. He felt very deeply that, it's a very famous quote, a house divided against itself will not stand. He did not feel that the South had the right to leave. He didn't feel that the South should leave. And so he was willing to send troops, fight, and to win a war in order to keep those southern states in the Union, okay? So there will be people maybe in your life, or you may read at some point, that the Civil War was not about slavery. This is the Civil War's greatest myth, you guys. They say, oh, the Civil War wasn't about that. That's not what they were fighting for. They were fighting for their states' rights. They were fighting because they were being unfairly represented in Congress. They were fighting because of the tariffs. None of those things are false. They were fighting for those things. But to say that the Civil War wasn't about slavery it's just completely wrong. And it actually does an injustice to the slaves at the time. Because as the book, and as I have clearly pointed out to you, all of these headings, all of these things you're taking notes on, all of them have to do with the central issue of the North and the South fighting over whether they should have slavery or whether they shouldn't have slavery. And the Constitution of the Confederate States of America in their Constitution, it specifically says like no law will be made against slavery. It's their number one reason, okay, for breaking away and forming their own country. So wanted that to get in your head, guys. Now that I've kind of given you a nutshell version and kind of the overview topic of these two sections that you're going to do, you can go ahead and you may take notes and read a little bit more specifically about each of these topics. And I hope that you take them to heart. I hope that you really try to understand these, because it's a very important, these are very important topics for you guys to understand and be able to interpret, especially because then when we get into the Civil War later, you'll understand what they were fighting about. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. Love you lots. Praying for you. Bye.